Hello, my name is Kyle Pura, and today I'm going to be making this video explaining Robots.txt, what it is, what it does, how do you make one, all that fun stuff. So let's get in with what is Robots.txt at its most basic level. It's pretty much just a plain text file in the root of almost every website. Go to google.com/robots.txt, wikipedia.com/robots.txt, facebook.com/robots.txt. Any website, any major website at least, will have a robots.txt file. And that file is going to contain robots.txt syntax, which is designed to be read by specific web bots that are capable of reading robots.txt syntax. It's also, if you look through your server logs, if you happen to own a website, it's usually the first document that's downloaded by web robots, as it should be, because it's basically kind of a permission of your website to them. And it is usually ignored by malicious robots, but I'll get into that a little bit later. And it's got a very loose syntax, so if you're a beginner, doesn't matter. You really can't mess this up. So let's get into the syntax and how do we just block user agents from accessing a website, right? So there's a couple different ways. So here first, we've got some popular user agents over here. We've got Googlebot, Bingbot, DuckDuckBot. Those are ones that you generally want to allow on your site because those are all feeding search engines. By the way, I do want to say that disallows and allows and any other tags that you put in your robots.txt file, they're not the same as bans or blocking an IP. They are requests that robots not go in certain areas of your website, but it's totally up to the robot as to whether or not they actually obey that, and if they decide that they don't want to obey that, there's nothing you can do. I mean, it's not like there's a law that says they need to obey robots.txt. It's just kind of like it's a suggestion book, courtesy. But of course, if you do have a bot that's misbehaving, you can always just ban their IP address and just not serve requests to them. Some commonly kind of blocked user agents are HTrack and WeGet. HTrack is a piece of software that downloads websites for offline viewing, and WeGet is a console resource for getting just web resources. Usually it's used for zip and tarball files, but it could be used for HTML, CSS, all that stuff. And there, again, blocking user agents is not a substitute for server-side banding. But anyway, so over here, I've got some sample code, and you see the asterisks here. This, in not just robots.txt, but a lot of different programming-oriented things, this means wildcard or universal or anything. This means everything, every possible value that this could have. So what this line here is saying is user agent, all possible user agents, disallow, and then this / is saying disallow everything on this website, including the homepage. And that would be to block all bots from accessing any page on your website. And then the second one here is user agent Googlebot. So this would just block Googlebot, and it wouldn't affect any other bots. And you can see here, we're not disallowing it from our homepage. We are disallowing it from a admin directory, which is something you probably wouldn't want Googlebot to be crawling because it's a waste of Googlebot's time, and there's no reason for it to be there. And you don't really want admin pages to be showing up in the Google index, so just a good idea to block that. Another example here is to block all bots except for Googlebot. So maybe you want to show up in Google results, but you don't want to show up at Bing, you don't want to show up in Yahoo, you don't want any other bots on your site. So what this is going to do is it's user agent, all user agents disallow the entire website, and then down here we're having something that just says user agent Googlebot allow everything. And the allow and disallow kind of cancel each other's out. So basically here we're saying user agent all, don't go anywhere, you can't go anywhere, and then we're saying except for Googlebot, you are allowed to go anywhere you want, good friend. Okay. So there's a few other things besides that. There's actually quite a few, but these are the ones I'd have to say I use the most. So the first one would be crawl delay, and that is what it sounds like. It's basically just saying, okay, you can crawl, but you have to wait X many seconds between requests. Because if you don't specify that, then the robot might not know it's going too fast, it might crash your server. And then the other one here is sitemap kind of attribute here, and this one isn't necessarily a rule that they should, or a courtesy that you want them to follow. It's more to help getting your site indexed quicker. It helps because there are a lot of different search crawler or web crawlers out there, and it's a real pain in the butt to try to go and register on every single one of their webmaster consoles. Some of them might not even have a webmaster console. So this just allows you to submit a sitemap to any bots that might be visiting your site. Just it's there for them if they want it. Now, here's something I think is really interesting because it's not inherently obvious when you first look at what a robots.txt file is. Because it doesn't use any tabs or indents or anything like that. But there actually is a kind of a group system here. So the sections are really defined by the user agent statements, and once the user agent is defined, then a new section begins. And then some statements, like the sitemap, are kind of universal statements. You don't need to repeat those. Those will just apply to everything. You can just slap those at the end and not worry about it. So in this example, if we just go through here, what we're saying is Googlebot, you can crawl our site, but you can't go into the admin directory, and you can't go into the open graph directory, and you can only have one request every 5 seconds. And then down here we're saying to BingBot, okay, you can crawl our site as well, but you can't crawl the admin directory, you can't crawl the Ajax directory, you can't crawl the images directory, and we also don't want you digging around in the open graph directory, and you also need to wait 5 seconds. And then down here we've got our Twitter bot user agent, which is the bot for Twitter.com, the social network. And again, we're going to disallow Twitter from our admin section, but we're going to allow Twitter into the open graph directory of our website. Maybe we've got some files in there with some metadata that we need Twitter to be able to access in order to display tweets featuring URLs from our site correctly. Maybe we got some Twitter card stuff in there. And then finally down here we've got the WeGet user agent, and we're just going to block that from the entire site, except we're going to allow it through the downloads directory and the source directory, and we set it to have a crawl delay of 30 seconds, because if we are getting more than one WeGet request per 30 seconds, then there's probably something not quite right going on there, since WeGet is usually something that you only get usually only once because it's downloading a file, which is why we allowed it in these directories and not the whole site. And then at the end here we just have our sitemap, which will apply to all of these should they choose that they want to have access to a sitemap. Now, there's also another option that doesn't require you to use the robots.txt file, and this works on a more page-by-page basis rather than the robots.txt file, which allows you to quickly kind of chop off really large sections of your website really quickly. And so there's really 3 different options you can have here. But first, this stuff, since obviously it's metadata, it's got to be in your head tags of your HTML document. It's designed for web crawlers. It's designed to kind of tell them about whether the links on a page are no index or no follow or index, no, all that stuff. So if we just go through this, I would highly recommend that you watch my video on backlinks if you don't fully understand what the difference between a no follow and a follow link is. So I'm just going to go through this relatively quickly and try to help everyone along. So all of these have meta name robots, and the only difference is in the content section here. So the first one here is no index follow. What this is saying is that any web crawlers and search engines do not include the page that this stuff is on in your index. So don't have it show up in Google search results or Bing search results. However, if you do happen to land on this page and you find a link, you are okay to follow those links. One kind of example I would see this first one being a good use for would be maybe a search results page, where you don't necessarily want the search results page ending up in Google, but you might want the items on the search results page, because it will probably be taking you to items throughout your website to be indexed by Google. So use the follow tag there. And the second one here is the opposite. It's telling Google to index a site but count all of the links as no follow. So, pardon the yawn. So what this means is that Google will include the page that this meta tag is on. However, it's not going to follow any of the links that are on the page. So, yeah. And then the final one here is just no index, no follow. So this is if you don't want crawlers anywhere near this page. So they're going to come on here, they're going to see, okay, I can't index this, and there's some links maybe, but it doesn't want me to follow any of them, so it's just going to leave, because there's nothing it can do there. Okay, so I told you I was going to get to these earlier, and here we are. There are, sadly, malicious bots out there. Not all bots are as happy and friendly as Googlebot and Bingbot and DuckDuckBot and all those lovely bots. Some bots genuinely want to hurt you and hack your site and all sorts of nasty stuff. So some examples of kind of bad robots that you might not want on your site would be like a web scraper, which is a bot that just visits your site, copies content, and takes it somewhere else so that it can be republished. Web aggregators, which are pretty similar to web scrapers, except I find web aggregators usually work more on RSS feeds than actual just going to the site and trying. And web scrapers is more just taking a pure copy of the HTML and just taking it off your server, putting it on theirs. Bots designed to crash sites, so those would be like denial of service attack bots, botnets designed to flood your site with a lot of traffic and overwhelm your servers and crash your site. You definitely wouldn't want those, although that can usually be prevented if you use CDN or if you have any sort of anti-DDoS attack mechanism with your hosting. Spam bots, they are just annoying. Those are the bots where if you run WordPress, for example, they'll leave a lot of spammy comments with links to their sites that make no sense because they're just supposed to be generic comments. And then probably the worst, in my opinion, would be vulnerability bots. And what these are is really interesting, actually. So sometimes vulnerabilities are found in large web platforms, like WordPress, for example. The I can't remember exactly which one, but it was one of the version 4 updates was a security release because they found a vulnerability in WordPress. And there are probably still a large number of WordPress websites that haven't updated to the 4.0 release, and that vulnerability is still active on all of those websites. And so what hackers will do is they'll create these bots, and they'll program these bots to detect if a site's made by WordPress or created with WordPress as the underlying foundation, and then they'll teach this bot how to perform this attack. They'll say, okay, first do this, then 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 send the username and password to me so that I can wreak havoc on this person's site. And that is something you don't want to happen because you work hard on your site presumably, and you don't want some hacker getting in and basically just turning it into a bunch of spam with links pointing back to their site. Also, most of these are gonna ignore the Robots.txt because they just don't care at all. And if a bot happens to be creating real issues for you, just IP ban them. Simple as that. I think it's pretty easy to do nowadays in Apache and probably a number of other web server environments. So just ban the IP. Chances are they won't consider you a big enough target to get a new IP. Alright, well that's it. Here's some related topics you might want to look into. I've got videos on all of these, so hopefully I'll see you later, and goodbye.